Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the dynamic, absolutely larger-than-life story of James Brown. We're going to analyze exactly how he revolutionized modern music and how he became this incredibly complex cultural force. Whether you know him best as Soul Brother #1 or the Godfather of Soul, his impact on the musical and socio-political landscape of the 20th century is, well, it's absolutely foundational. He once said, "When I'm on stage, I'm trying to do one thing: bring people joy." And this iconic quote really perfectly captures the relentless energy and purpose we're about to explore as we trace his story. But as you'll see, behind all that joy was an iron discipline and a fascinatingly layered cultural identity that spanned over 5 decades of American history. So here is our set list for today's explainer. 1. The Architect of Groove. 2. Revolutionizing the live album. 3. The Politics of Soul. 4. Capitalism versus radicalism. And finally, 5. Unmatched musical legacy. Let's kick things off with Section 1, The Architect of Groove, building the bedrock of modern sound. It's crucial to understand that Brown didn't just participate in genres like R&B. His bands created the instrumental jams that literally invented funk, and in turn, became the absolute bedrock of hip-hop. I mean, his half-century career encompassed gospel, blues, jazz, and soul. But the truly staggering part is that his rhythmic dexterity, that signature raspy tenor, and the incredibly heavy grooves of his backing bands, like the Famous Flames and the JBs, they lay down the very DNA for the urban music you probably listen to today. Now, how did he achieve this impossibly tight, revolutionary sound? Well, through legendary discipline. He didn't just ask for focus, he demanded absolute precision and ruled his musicians with an iron will. Mind-blowingly, he would literally fine his own band members if they missed a single note or a cue during a performance. That obsessive, relentless control is exactly what made his live sound so sharp it could cut right through the air. Moving on to Section 2, revolutionizing the live album, capturing lightning in a bottle. 66. That is the astonishing number of weeks his 1963 album, Live at the Apollo, spent on the Billboard chart. To put that into perspective for a second, releasing a live soul album in the early 60s was completely unheard of as a commercial strategy. It was a massive risk. And what's really crazy about this is that his own record label, King Records, absolutely refused to pay for it. They firmly doubted that a live soul album would actually sell. So, being famously wise to the value of a dollar, Brown just financed the project himself. He knew he had to capture the sheer roar and rapture of that notoriously tough Apollo Theater crowd. And wow, did his gamble pay off brilliantly. It moved upwards of 1 million copies, proving once and for all that a concert recording could be both a commercial and an artistic masterpiece. Okay, Section 3, The Politics of Soul, the healing power of performance. Let's set the scene here. On April 4th, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, and cities across America were erupting in grief and violence. Up in Boston, leaders Mayor Kevin White and Councilman Tom Adkins knew they had a scheduled James Brown concert at the Boston Garden the very next night. So they hatched a plan. They essentially leveraged Brown's magnetic presence, paying $60,000 to offset any lost ticket sales so they could broadcast his concert live on local television. The whole strategy was to keep a grieving city off the streets. And you know what? It worked. Brown spoke directly to the audience, urged calm, and successfully averted disaster in Boston that night. During that incredibly tense period, Brown really used his platform to deliver these fiery sermons of nonviolent activism and self-empowerment to the youth who were looking to him for guidance. He famously told them, "Don't terrorize, organize. Don't burn, learn." He stepped right into a leadership void, providing a cathartic outlet while passionately advocating for education and hope. Which brings us to Section 4, Capitalism versus Radicalism, a divided legacy. Now, there is a stark contrast in how his influence has been perceived historically, and it's a really fascinating debate. To a lot of people, Brown was the ultimate symbol of Black empowerment. I mean, this is a man who grew up in extreme poverty, shining shoes in front of the WRDW radio station in Georgia, only to eventually build a multi-million-dollar empire and buy that very same radio station. To millions, that was the living, breathing embodiment of Black power. But on the flip side, radical critics, like those writing in the left-wing newspaper The Inner City Voice, viewed his brand of soul music as a sellout. They argued it pushed a deceptive capitalist myth of Afro-American affluence rather than genuinely reflecting the very real suffering of the oppressed.
Building on that radical critique, some writers in the 1970s, like J.K. Obatala, went as far as defining his music as a psychological depressant. Yeah, you heard that right. According to this argument, the simple, uncomplicated rhythm of soul music was hypnotic, like a drug, making people complacent and euphoric, instead of intellectually engaged and revolutionary. It's an incredibly deep debate recorded in the sources, showing how one man's art could be viewed simultaneously as a powerful engine for empowerment and a tool of capitalist distraction.
Let's move on to our final section, Section 5, Unmatched Musical Legacy, The Hardest Working Man. Regardless of where you stand on the politics, his art continually evolved, and the catalog is just undeniable. Look at his 1973 album, The Payback, which beautifully captured the impatience and the anger of the 70s recession. Or Sex Machine in 1970, which featured the JBs at the absolute height of their powers, birthing funk through these incredible extended jams. And his live shows, they were simply untouchable. In the 1965 Tammy Show film, he delivered a legendary performance that completely upstaged the Rolling Stones. Years later, he was bringing funk all the way back to Africa at the Zaire 74 festival, right ahead of the historic Ollie Foreman fight. To truly grasp why he was called the hardest working man in show business, well, the numbers speak for themselves. We're talking well over 100 albums and singles released. He entertained nearly 3 million fans in a single year. He averaged 300 live, sweat-soaked performances annually. His career successfully navigated and soundtracked 5 whole decades of massive cultural shifts in America. So, to wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. How did this one impoverished child from South Carolina manage to create a sound that still governs the heartbeat of global culture today? Really think about that. It's a true testament to his sheer discipline, his complex identity, and a groove that absolutely refused to be ignored. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the legacy of James Brown. Keep learning, keep organizing, and I'll catch you on the next one.